Hey, folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. This podcast is being brought to you by On Target Claims, where their motto is on target from setback to settlement. Now, listen, a little background. I've worked with these guys on the job, on the street for over 25 years, man, and they have always done the right thing and have always had my back. Now, in this second chapter, let them have your back, right? You wouldn't go to court without an attorney. Why would you go up against an insurance company without representation, right? They represent you, the policyholder, when you go up against an insurance company submitting a claim. And I can tell you this, right? From beginning to end, they're going to be with you during the entire process. They're going to properly document that claim with the latest technology. And then when it comes time to getting things fixed, they've got a complete stable of vendors that are certified that are going to get it done right the first time. They also offer a pre-loss planning and policy review. So you know exactly what you're covered for, right? Make sure that you're adequately covered. The time to find out that you're not isn't after that horrific event. Okay. So give my friends a call at On Target Claims, 561-208-1775, or go to their website, ontargetclaims.com. They cover the entire state of Florida, offices in Fort Lauderdale and Tampa, and tell them John sent you. And now let's get to the episode. All right, you ready for me, kid?
I'm ready.
All right. Hey, folks, John Kelly. Welcome back to the Law Enforcement Life Coach Sometimes Heroes Need Help podcast. Sitting down with Rosie Cataldo. Holy smokes. So I love this space because you never know when you're going to meet somebody that just pours value into your heart. And Rosie is that person. So her mission, right? She is helping people. She's given them the tools that they need to create lifelong barriers to traumas and help them like get on this path, right? Embark down this road towards healing. And you say that and you go, well, that sounds pretty lofty. And you go, yeah, you know what? Because there's nothing worse, man. There's nothing worse than being exposed to some of the traumas that are out there and not having a way to mitigate them, not having a way. Every day you wake up and it's the worst day of your life. And she helps people break through that. And that is awesome. And so I could just go on and on and on talking about Rosie, but I'm going to shut up and we're going to hear it from her. Rosie, it's so very
Yeah,
nice to see you.
it's a pleasure to be sitting here with you
Oh my
virtually.
goodness. Yeah,
So,
right. We have some mutual friends and we kind of got in this group of wellness warriors, so to speak. And it's Melissa Kaiser brought the group together and she's like, hey, I know a lot of people that are really passionate about helping people in various disciplines, doing various things. Wouldn't it be cool if we all got together? And so we've met a couple times over Zoom. And I tell you, when you introduced yourself, I'm like, I gotta know more about her. Like you really, I think the work that you do, like to say it matters is probably the understatement of the year. Unfortunately, unfortunately, you're needed, like what you do. And before we get into all that, give me a little Reader's Digest version of you, because when I did a little prodding and poking around on my own, you worked for the Federal Reserve back in the day.
yes, in my previous life.
What the hell?
Yes. Hey, we all have many skills, right? And gifts, and
Yeah.
they really seem to launch at different times in our lives, different decades. So, previously, yes, I worked in public affairs for the Federal Reserve Bank of Minneapolis, and they were kind enough to let me work part time from home. Back when the remote work wasn't really a popular thing.
Back
So
when it wasn't an option, really.
no, in the early 2000s. And
Wow.
so I could be more present with my kids, and which was wonderful.
That's pretty forward thinking.
Yeah, it was awesome. And then about about 7 years ago, uh, something I became aware of the prevalence of human trafficking, particularly regarding young children.
Mm.
And there was something that happened in my community that I just couldn't shy away from. It's something that just hit me like a brick. I
I was going
was
to say, it must have just smacked you in the face.
Yes, yeah, the proverbial 2x4 right across the face. And um although human trafficking, sex trafficking is not my personal story, it is very personal to me. And I do feel that everything happens for a reason. So
Mm.
I feel like it was a time in my life where I was shifting, I was looking for something else to do. I was starting to do some consulting on my own, and um yeah, learned about this, joined the state's anti-trafficking task force to educate myself, and just really learned from survivors, trauma specialists, people like you, social workers, but mostly survivors of different types of trafficking. So
Wow.
that's
Can I stop you there?
yes.
Um, Heartbreaking
Mm.
and empowering all at the same time.
Yeah, quite a mix. So I feel that it cracked me open and saw some things I didn't know existed. And for a blip, it's very dysregulating. And I
Sure.
shouldn't say for a blip, it can always be dysregulating, but it takes practice
I
in.
think majority of us want to pretend that that doesn't exist
Mhm.
because
Yeah, I
for
wish.
us to acknowledge it, actually, for us to acknowledge it and not do anything about it, that doesn't sit well with us. So it's better for us almost as a I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, but maybe like as a our own survival mechanism, just to pretend it doesn't exist, and that way everything's okay with my world.
Yes, but unfortunately, that doesn't solve
No,
anything.
no,
And
it doesn't.
I feel that things like human trafficking and different types of organized violence are bubbling up for a reason. Like they're really coming to a head so that we can, as a collective, look and say, okay, no, not on my watch. And there are so many incredible people I've met who are doing such remarkable work, whether it's a survivor who offers retreats to help others and walk alongside others, or
Mm.
trauma specialists who set up nonprofits to help people in
Like
various ways.
Operation Light Shine and the work that Kevin
Yes,
Brenzetti's doing and
yes, and Jim Cole,
Jim
and
Cole and yes,
all just remarkable work,
right.
all the high tech tools that are available to help combat, especially child sexual abuse material, which of course is exploitative and can lead to other things,
Mm.
including human trafficking. So it's amazing. Like the people I've met are so inspiring. And I've gone down different avenues such as abuse prevention in schools, partnered with an amazing NGO called The Noble.
I was looking. There are so many different areas of expertise that you offer. You
I
know,
don't, I don't know about expertise, but I've learned a
stop.
lot.
Listen, stop
I-
it. Just
I've
stop it.
learned
All
a
right.
lot
If
about
I
different.
say if I say expertise, it's expertise. Okay.
Thanks, John. Thanks,
All
John.
right.
But yeah, I've learned about different areas, and this isn't just like you can't just take a dart and shoot it at a bullseye and say this is the solution, because it's a
I
multifaceted
was gonna say
approach
there are
to
so
these
many
issues.
different
Hmm.
because I want to think that ultimately, like we want to get to the source of it, right? We don't want to keep treating symptoms, right?
Right.
What's the cause of it? And when you get to that place, holy smokes.
And one of I from my perspective, I feel that one of the causes is trauma. And so because let's face it, healthy people who have their needs met and a supportive environment, a supportive network, people who love them are not committing these crimes. And so it's like the perfect storm.
Are
We
you
have
kidding me? Like
traumatized.
you just had this, I the lack of love,
Mm-hmm. Love it. Yeah. Or a
the
support.
lack of love has, if, cause I'm a simple man, and so, keep it simple, stupid, right? The KISS method. Um, the lack of love early on in our development
Mhm. Yeah. People who don't have,
starts laying the foundation for a lot of really bad things to happen.
right. It's that attachment. It's that you need a secure and healthy attachment to a caregiver, whether or not it's your biological parents or
Or
some
somebody that loves you.
exactly. Exactly. So I feel that that is really at the root of a lot of these societal ills, and the solutions are can be very simple. We complicate them. So even being a mentor, being a coach, going the next, just going out of your way to help other youth, maybe at your own kid's school who may not have a support system or whose
Right.
parents are working 3 jobs and can't be around. So there are really
Is there an I please excuse my ignorance. Is there an ideal age that, like, if we don't, because I know from what little I know is that, with aces and
Mhm.
sometimes these things get carved into a young person's soul.
Yeah.
And is there a window of time like that is more important than others?
Yes. So
Okay.
trauma
That's a
specialists.
great question, John. Thank you. Continue.
Yeah,
Yes.
wonderful question. Let's explore that, shall we?
Yes.
So I have heard trauma specialists say that if you don't have offer intervention therapy close to age 7, that can be really hard to get at the trauma after that. Not impossible by any
No.
means, but more challenging. And some people do think that, oh, if this trauma happened to a toddler, which sadly there is a market for young children within sex trafficking, it's really sick. And some people have the misnomer that, oh, it happened to them so young, they won't remember it. But the body always remembers. It's stored, and
Mm.
the memories not may not fully come, but they can manifest and come out sideways. Like I know people who have been exploited as children don't have solid memories, but then have anxiety and depression and flashbacks and
They're wondering where the hell did all this come from? And
yes, yes. And so there are most definitely ways
mm,
to support different types of people who are working through complex trauma, um, or vicarious trauma in your
mm,
profession, to come at that holistically. There are so many beautiful ways to support people, but people with what I do, when I do body work with people to help release stored trauma. And I consult with the Midwest Center for Trauma and Healing, which is in the Twin Cities.
okay.
And it's really a third of the clients there are coming out of organized violence. So that's, human trafficking, exploitation, cults, um, maybe some other types of abuse through systems.
Okay.
Um,
Who were the other 2/3?
oh, everyday people,
Everyday people.
just dealing with life and challenges and struggles and, work stresses, family stresses, you
Okay.
name it. So, yeah. But it is the body work that I have the privilege of doing with people is I get a front row seat to miracles. So I feel like I have the best seat in the house. It's
So
just
you're saying these words. I see words coming out of your mouth. I apologize. What do you mean body work? What you know what my body work was today? I
great
went to the
question.
gym. I
Good
went
for
to the
you.
gym.
That's so
Right.
important.
Right.
It's
I love it.
very, very
I
important.
won't miss a day, right? Because that's my medicine. But
Wonderful.
you're talking about something different.
Yes. So body work in this sense is supporting someone in releasing stored trauma. And so there are different modalities that I've learned, that I've been trained on, that I have just formulated my own lineup of holistic practices,
Okay.
which so every session's unique, but do you want me to walk you through what a session would look
I would I'm intrigued because
like?
I don't know what that is. And if it's when you say you help release trauma through doing some body work exercises, is that proper?
Yes.
Um,
So they're doing the work.
they're doing the work. Okay.
They're
Is
doing the
that
work.
trauma released for an hour, for a day, forever?
Yeah, from the people I've worked with, it's a shift that has stayed with them. Yes, it's gone.
Is it something that they need to maintain? Like,
Mm,
um,
That's a
I,
great question, John. It's it's something that some people do come back. Like I've worked with some people in recovery, and
okay.
people want to come one time, some people want to come a handful of times. It's really individual, and they might be working on different issues. We typically work on one issue at a time, but yes,
Okay.
it's something when we're working on a particular issue, it is working to dissolve that, to shift it, to release it from their energy field. And
Okay.
so, yeah, I love your questions. Do you want me to go through
I
a
would love
session?
to know
Okay,
more. I would love to know
okay.
more.
So let's say you come over and we sit, and so I do work out of my house. I can go to people's houses, and I can also see people at Midwest Center for Trauma and Healing.
Is this something that you could do like we're doing right now over Zoom, or does somebody need to
I-
be in your physical space?
Another great question. I can do distance sessions with people. Yes,
Okay. Okay.
yes. And so, first of all, the conditions need to be ripe. You can't push this on anybody. A person has to be seeking and has to be curious and ready to shift. And
Okay.
so,
And so that means that they need to be, maybe there's an educational component ahead of
yes,
time.
I do free consult calls or Zooms
Okay.
with people ahead of time, just to make sure we're a good fit for each other and that they're comfortable, I'm comfortable. And so we would have a chat ahead of time, and then let's say it's you, John, come
Okay.
over. The first initial session is about 2 hours. I'd plan for 2 hours, and we chat, kind of identify anything that's weighing you down, anything, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a circumstance, an event, a limiting belief, a variety of things. We talk through, and sometimes we need to dig a little deeper regarding what might be, let's say they have this worry, but where does this worry, where does this anxiety really stem from? Is it this circumstance, or is it something that's related to that? So
Right.
we talk through things, and then I typically do a grounding with the individual, and it's kind of like a meditation,
Okay.
just to get everybody in the right mindset and calm the nervous system, tap into the breathing. And then I like to do a visualization, just like, sports psychology and different athletes use
Kind
lots
of
of.
like maybe something like that I did when I was with 22-0, like a disassociating kind of exercise where you're mm,
It's a visualization. It's on my website, where I take
ah,
people to a serene place, and
oh,
they're imagining all of it. And
okay.
most people can visualize like pictures in their mind, but some people can't. So
Gotcha.
I'll just work with whomever I have the privilege of working alongside. So we do a visualization, and the point of it is to allow the person to come back to that in the future to help calm the nervous system.
So that relaxing, serene,
Hmm.
calming place that
Yeah.
you get their mind to go to,
Yes.
that's something that you give them, you allow them to go back to that place as like a refuge.
Yeah. And we can do one if you want, John. We could do that together, but
Listen,
it's up to you.
listen.
Maybe
I don't want to cry anymore today. Okay,
okay.
so
Okay. So after the visualization, then I have a table, just a massage table. And if people are, not everyone may be comfortable laying down,
right.
especially if you're a survivor of sex trafficking or sexual assault.
Yeah,
So
I gotta that. I mean, I don't like saying like words that I but like that could be triggering, right?
yes, yes. And so all of this assessment is done ahead of time to
Sure, sure.
allow the person to feel comfortable, safe, so that they can just
Right.
do the work.
So you would already have identified that, uh, someone laying down, that they're okay with it because it's something that you've discussed.
Yes, it's an
Okay.
option. They get to
Yeah.
choose. Yes,
Okay.
it's the power is in the client's hands, so the
Yeah.
power. And so it can be lying down, which is predominantly what how I practice, but it can also be sitting in a chair with your feet up or
Okay.
uh, whatever's most comfortable. And it can be hands on or hands off. Typically it's hands on, but I can always do hands off as well. And we start out with some tapping, emotional freedom technique tapping, and tapping at different meridians on the face. And have a mantra that they repeat after me, and I use their name. And then the pivotal piece, I call this the money spot, is yes, John. Go
Question.
ahead.
Question. Because if I told you this was going to happen, you're going to start saying things, and I'm going to interrupt you because I have questions.
Good.
Is any of this taken from like Chinese medicine, like from with pressure points and stuff?
So the not no, but their emotional freedom technique is it's universal. You can do tapping on yourself
Okay.
and say different mantras, and that's what it's designed for. And that's wonderful. So for example, if you are talking to a trusted friend about an issue, most likely you feel some relief after talking to them. You
Sure.
feel like, okay, I got this out there. Someone I trust was listening to me. You feel better. So
Feel like
with
a weight has been lifted.
precisely. And with tapping, you can do that on your own body, and that can be very beneficial and soothing, regulating to the nervous system. But if someone else is doing that for you, someone who you feel comfortable with,
Mm-hmm.
someone who's holding space for you, simply listening and working with you, that is very powerful. So the heart, tapping at the heart, which is the seat of the soul, and there's a meridian at the heart that is connected to the kidney, our body's filtration system. So this is very powerful. So, like, let's say you're working through anxiety. So, I would be tapping at your heart and make sure you're okay with the cadence and the pressure, and say, okay, John, um, I would have you repeat after me. Like, John, I acknowledge the weight of this feeling. I recognize this is not serving me.
Hmm.
I take full ownership of this. This is mine. I'm ready to shift this. I'm ready to hand it over to, and again, before we even start, I talk about if the client has a religious or spiritual practice, I can
You
pray.
incorporate that as well.
Yes. So whatever the client would like
So
to do,
like I'm
we
I'm
can,
will I'm ready to shift this over to God.
yeah, yes, we can shift it over to God, creator, source, universe. It's all, I personally feel like
Shift
it's
it over
semantic.
to somebody other than
Yeah.
me who's been hanging on to it.
Exactly. So it's beautiful, and I do some other work with that and help them release it. And they're doing the work. I'm a witness. I'm coaching them through it, but I'm a witness. I describe myself as a pipeline. I'm just a pipeline. I'm not just a pipeline, but I am honored to be a
The
pipeline. And
conduit.
yes, and it every single person I work with, we talk about and acknowledge that there's something greater than we are working in the room, which is really beautiful. And I feel it's a tremendous privilege to be able to
Can
work.
I it's gotta be quite an emotional experience.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's sometimes it takes like, because I check in with people afterwards.
Yeah.
Particularly, I've had clients who have had complex trauma and can't, they haven't slept through the night for years. And
Mm.
when they tell me they're sleeping, like the
Ooh.
first time it happened, I about fell off my chair.
Yeah.
And so it's beautiful. And I feel that every single one of us has intuition. We're born with it. It's our birthright. Every single one of us has divinity within us. And we just need to remember it and honor that
Do you
within
think that
ourselves.
that trauma that they've experienced kills whatever it is in them that they need some help and guidance in getting back to that divinity in that place?
Yeah, I think that you just really touched on something so important, that when I'm talking with people, the goal is, let's get you back to who you were born to be, who you were before the bad stuff happened.
Mm.
And so yeah, it's just really clearing all barriers to allow someone to be their truest, most authentic self. So yes, and remembering their divinity, and
Wow.
remembering that all these things happen for us, not to us.
Mm.
And so when a person can transfer from being a victim to a survivor, to a thriver, to a person of service, that is alchemy. And that is like, I just get the chills when I say that,
Yeah.
because this is
Yeah.
what I get to see. And it's just
You're present
remarkable.
for that transformation.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. It's hard to put it into words.
Well, you did a great job because I see that. Like I see that.
Yeah, like you, John. Like, you've taken all of your experiences and working through them, um, and now being a person of tremendous service and helping other people, walking alongside other people. So just like what you're doing.
Yeah. No, it's so important. You mentioned, you know, helping people and that have been victimized. And there's different um for lack of a better term, categories of you've
Yeah,
got
they.
people that are victim are that are the direct um recipients
Mhm.
of the horror, so to speak. And then we've got like what vicarious, right? Vicarious trauma. Um,
Yeah.
it, what you do, I would guess, works across all spectrums, right?
Yes, yes, it does. And after after doing the release, after witnessing the person shift and release what is no longer serving them, then I do a simple nervous system regulation technique that a trauma specialist taught me. It's simply holding the ankle and the kidney. And you can practice this on your wife, you can practice this on your kids. It helps with anxiety, or, just calming the nervous system. But it's simply holding, if the person is lying on their back, taking a hand and placing it under the lower back to support the kidney, and then under the ankle, and just waiting. It usually takes a couple minutes, just waiting to feel the pulsations. And then once the pulsations dissipate, then you can do the same on the other side. And it's great if the person can just be quiet and relax. I might say, a prayer for the person, or just hold space for the person, set an intention, whatever they're trying to shift or release during that time. And then after that, I do Reiki. So Reiki's simply, it's an energy healing. Reiki's just beautiful. I feel it would be amazing if they taught it to high school seniors. Everyone could learn Reiki,
Well,
but
so again, you're speaking to Neanderthal John here. I have no idea what the hell you just said.
it's an energy healing. It's offering a vibration, and your body can choose to meet it if it wants to. And so, for example, 2 years ago this month, my mom passed away suddenly, and that was very dysregulating. I was in shock. Like my digestive system was off, like my body was,
It was a shock to your whole way of life.
it was like, kind of felt like I was in a tremendous fog, hard to think clearly. My memory was impacted because I was in shock. And so, um, a friend of mine suggested Reiki. And so I did go to a Reiki practitioner, and I loved it so much that I wanted to learn it, to add it to what I practice. So I describe it as like, think of it as like something heavy, like a boulder on your chest, and you can't quite get a breath, and it's like pulling you, keeping you weighted down. And after the Reiki, I felt like myself again. I could think clearly, I could sleep better, my digestion was back on track, and uh, I felt lighter. And so it was, I thought, this is too remarkable. I want to
Yeah.
infuse this in practice, that I use the modalities I use to help others. So I would,
So I noticed you said dysregulation
mhm,
a couple times
yes,
since we've been sitting.
yes,
It's different for everybody.
yes, correct.
And so is the euphemism for that anxiety? Like what
Yeah,
is
it can be anxiety. Dysregulation is something.
I like this regulation because it seems to be all encompassing.
Yeah, like
Like
if
it's
you're,
like you're off. You
yeah,
are not the way you were.
yes.
You're not at your optimal, or there's something wrong.
Exactly. I like to describe it as, you're not operating from your most resource self. And what is the
Okay.
most resource self? The most resource self is who you are in a present, relatively calm state. You can think clearly, you can make decisions, you have a quick response. You're you.
You've got
You're who you are.
clarity, direction,
Yes. Yes.
firing on all cylinders, for lack of
Yes.
a better term.
No, great description. So that's what is referred to as the fully resourced self. So there can be dysregulation, can, yes, be in many different forms and many different feelings, fear, anxiety, anger, frustration, uh, you know, mourning the death of a loved one. Many, many, many different things can be part of dysregulation, but which is a part of life, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Life is not easy. No one said it was easy.
Right.
And it's just a matter of being able to navigate those waves, navigate the punches when you get knocked out, and learning what works best for you. Because just because body work is helpful for one person doesn't mean it's going to be helpful for another person. So
Yeah.
there are many wonderful tools that people can incorporate in their lives to help themselves. Yes.
Question, John Kelly. What is, listen, the older I get, the more I know I don't know. Right? Like
I feel
that's the
feel it.
blessing. That's the blessing of being 57, is that I know every day I wake up and somebody asks me something, I don't know. And I mean that
Yeah,
like,
the more
so, and
we know, the less we know. Yeah.
right. So my question, I start thinking about all this great work you're doing and so many, how these practices like could relieve so much pain and suffering from so many groups that you and I serve. How much of a buy-in from the individual, because you're talking to old school Johnny and you say raking, and I go, the only raking I've been doing is the leaves out in the backyard. Yeah, that's my raking, right? Because you are okay, jerk off,
Right.
simmer
No,
down,
no, it,
right? And so,
well,
like, how much of that is dependent on me?
it's all dependent on you.
Okay, all right. So you can't
100%.
do any
You're in the
you
driver's seat.
you can't do any Jedi mind tricks with Johnny here. You can't.
I can with Reiki, you can offer the vibration,
Right,
and some people feel it, like I definitely feel it in my
right.
body, like different waves.
Okay.
Um it's a different frequency, like
But
maybe
isn't that like the way with everything? Like I just thought like unless you're ready,
yeah,
like unless you're willing to accept ownership of anything,
yes, you're in the driver's seat.
you're not moving forward.
Yeah, we can't outsource our power. So you have the power of choice. Never ever forget. Unless you're a child,
Right, right, right. No, but
you
see that's all right. So this just came full circle for me because we're and it supports my belief that we're the problem. With
well,
no,
it's
Rosie,
programming.
don't cut anybody any slack.
It's
We're the
programming.
problem, and then therefore we're the solution.
Hmm.
Because if in order for me to be the solution, I need to be
Yeah.
open and accepting to
Mhm.
know that I don't know. And maybe Rosie knows more than me. Maybe she is the conduit that I need to change.
It's really being a conduit and a witness. Like just
Yeah,
getting people, like you don't need a guru. You need to remember who you are.
that's awesome. That's all. That's powerful. That's
Hmm. Yeah.
powerful.
Yeah.
Now I know why you love doing what you're doing, why you've got this passion, because at the end of the day, you're dramatically impacting the quality of people's lives. People that
Yeah. And so are
I
you.
don't want to say maybe had given up, but didn't say that were so blinded by their past that they didn't see what tomorrow looked. They didn't see a positive tomorrow.
Yeah, which is completely understandable.
Right. What about working now? I know you did some work and you've done a lot of work because I'm a nosy guy. Um, with nurses in that
Yeah.
community,
Hmm.
I want to talk to our first responder family here, because listen, and I kind of said this to you before we got started. Um, the easiest job in the world is being a cop, and maybe easier than that is being a firefighter, right? I mean,
I don't know about that, John.
listen, easy. You want to be put the wet stuff on the hot stuff. All right, it's not that difficult. Cop stuff is not difficult. We like to make it difficult. And with that being said, in all seriousness, every profession out there has its day,
Hmm.
right? And when I went to your website and I saw that you did some work with nurses, I went, you want to talk about being exposed from the minute you walk into work to the time that you're allowed to go home, if you're even allowed to go home,
Right.
right? Because you don't dictate a break in the action. I just thought how heartbreaking it would be. Because, I mean, let's just say, for argument's sake, you're an ER nurse, right? Nobody goes to the ER because they twisted their ankle. They go to the ER because their ankle is hanging off,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
so and maybe you're tending to people like cops always say, like, oh, our calls with kids are the worst. We have kids, and you
Mm-hmm.
go to a call that's involving children, that's close to your heart, and that has more of a tendency to leave a rut in you.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Yes.
that nurse, that medical professional, is seeing everyone from that family in that ER. They're seeing their grandparents and through the eyes. They're
Mm-hmm.
seeing their spouses,
Right.
their parents, their kids, and the most god awful circumstances. And their shift's over. All
Mm-hmm.
right, we'll come back in 12 hours. Come back in whatever.
Right. It's a learning curve. It's learning how to keep yourself grounded and knowing how and when you can help.
Like they should have somebody like you on staff, and like before you go home, um, worked into your shift is a decompression half hour with Rosie or somebody that's trained.
No, I that's funny because that is in conversation locally in Minnesota
John Kelly,
with
home
the
run.
Minnesota Nurses Association. Yes, you're using your psychic gifts, John. Way to go. But yes,
It has to happen.
it happened organically with what I practice with people. It has with clients and people with complex trauma. Um, Everything that I've learned has also helped
Hmm.
me stay grounded, helped me not take on other people's stuff, which I was doing in the beginning when I first started working with
Oh,
people. I was taking
you
on
have.
their stuff.
I listen. I don't know you, but I know you.
So yes, I'm an empath, and so it's a learning curve.
You are a sponge.
Yes, and so it's knowing, all right, this is just tools and tactics for staying grounded and clearing yourself when you're working with different types of people. And this is helpful for everyone.
I
Everyone who
was going
works
to say
with,
everybody ends up,
yeah,
and that's the reason why we disengage or don't want to get involved, because I don't.
mhm.
I'm,
You don't want to feel their
I
stuff.
don't want to feel that, and I don't want to feel. And people, oh, why we get so callous and we've got an attitude, because
Yeah, people say
who
it's
wants
not
to
my,
walk around with that?
but there are really incredible ways to not take that on.
Right,
And
but we don't know that.
so that's in what I practice and talking with nurses who work in the anti-human trafficking space. That's how the collaboration started,
Okay.
because it's like, well, if these holistic modalities can be helpful for people like me and for people I walk alongside,
Right.
then nurses, especially since the pandemic and suffering from moral injury and um, all the everyday trauma. I mean, they're just on rev all the time. And you can't, even if you're driving the best sports car ever, you have it on rev the whole time. It's gonna peter out. So
Yeah.
learning ways to replenish yourself, learning holistic strategies um to discharge that secondary trauma and recuperate and be able to go to work the next day. So there are different the elements that I use in a bodywork session. I extrapolate those pieces and teach some to nurses, like teach
Okay.
them about, doing partnered exercises, doing the nervous system regulation, giving them some homework, some like you do with your coaching, doing self-assessment, like where
Sure.
am I, what areas of my life am I really a rock star in? And then where do I need some help? Where do I need to level up? And so really it's holding up the mirror and looking at yourself.
And now you're talking
And
my language, Rosie.
however, not everyone wants to do that.
Wow.
So not everyone wants to look at their what I call psychic blindnesses. We all have blindnesses. We all have areas that haven't been illuminated to us yet. And if people can be open to that and really wanting to shift and change and improve, discard what's not working and
Sure.
infuse new strategies to help them. Whether it's, I mean, there are extremely simple strategies like we all hear, getting enough sleep, exercising, eating real food,
There's
hydrate.
some like baseline modalities that you should be
Basic.
doing just to have as a healthy, without any added stress or anxiety. You should be getting 7 to 9 hours of sleep
Exactly. So,
regardless.
and then on top of that, it's like, okay, what can I do to discharge this? Maybe it's yoga, maybe it's breath work, maybe it's just getting online and searching up emotional freedom technique
Maybe
and
cold
trying.
plunging.
Yeah, exactly, which is invigorating. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
didn't even have to have coffee when I did the cold plunge. I was like, hey, this is really awesome. So,
Yeah.
they're different tactics that can be infused. Maybe it's Tai Chi, maybe, I have a bag in my basement, a punching bag. And so that's helpful for me
Punch
especially when I
bag.
hear really tough cases and I'm a mom. And sometimes, let's face it, it's just like so infuriating. And you want to get rid of that. You want to get rid of it and discharge it. And then remember that traumatized people can inflict trauma on other people, but healed people can also heal other people.
Mm.
So I really work on stepping back and removing judgment and not knowing everybody's path, not knowing everyone's backstory. And because I know our society doesn't take this in or take this viewpoint as often, but just as a victim or survivor needs assistance, so does the perpetrator. And so there's a story
Yeah, I
I'm
can see where you'd run into a brick wall there sometimes.
yeah,
Because I think sometimes so let me support you in that, because that person was victimized at one point.
most likely.
Right.
Yes.
All right. So I mean, but we don't ever dig back that far. We just see the piece of shit that they are right now, victimizing a child.
Right.
But we don't. But
They don't
that
know how
person,
to break the cycle.
right, right. And
So
so, not that anything is condoned
no,
by no, but
no, not condoned, but trying to infuse some understanding and
right,
compassion rather
right.
than
I think people are so afraid of a slippery slope, Rosie, where you
mhm,
go, well, if we start, see, because we're so afraid of the truth that at one point this person was a victim,
mhm,
and we failed
mhm.
that child who is now an adult,
Right.
victimizing all over again.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
a tough. It's so much easier to demonize the adult.
Mhm.
I think, right?
Yeah, which not to condone, any of that behavior, but it does offer a bit more empathy. Like, it is all about, yeah, traumas, filling voids, unmet needs
Mm,
in perhaps unhealthy ways, whether
right.
it's, in a variety of ways.
Because that's the thing. Because that's it gets messy when we start doing that.
Hmm. So just being, if I just encourage people, again, like we talked about, you cannot push this on anybody. It's an
Right.
inside
Right.
job. But when someone is willing to, I hold up the mirror, and if they're willing to look, that's the first step. So
Right.
yeah.
Right. That is I it's so funny. Like, so your whole I'm watching you, and when you started talking about like the young victims that become perpetrators, you were uncomfortable.
Oh,
Because
it's sad. It's sad. It's
it's a
heartbreaking.
it's a
It's
dichotom.
yeah.
It's this duality that
Hmm.
I don't listen. I am sure there are people out there that are psychopaths that weren't victimized,
True.
that are just horrible people, and that this is what they do. But I bet if we're real, and if we have access to studies and research and history,
Hmm.
that adult that is victimizing was not loved, and
Yeah.
nobody see and so
Didn't have a support system, right? And
so
beyond that, then
but
being
but we don't want to hear that, because we want to punish,
mhm.
right? and
It's
and
complex. It's
it's
very
very
complex.
complex.
It's not cut and dried.
No,
So
it's not. No, it's not. Yeah, what a little side road here. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole anymore, because I'm going to get angry. I was in such a great space talking
but
about
but
breath work and
bringing
tapping. I
it,
was so
you know,
happy. Now I'm angry. Rosie,
well, we can work through that, John.
help me.
It's just a feeling. Just
Oh,
feel it, let it move through, let it
yeah.
pass, and
I
then
don't need a punching bed. I need a punching person. I need to beat somebody up right now.
stick to the bag, John. Stick to the
Oh
bag.
my God, you're too funny. I I gotta ask you. So the what you're doing, you had mentioned, and I don't want to gloss over it, that this is something that they're looking to implement maybe in some local hospitals, having some having I just see
Some help for the helpers.
for the
Yeah.
help, yeah, but
Yeah.
it just seems to me to be so fundamentally necessary.
Hmm.
Is it cops don't see messed up stuff every day? They don't. They, they want the public to believe that they do, but they don't, right? You ever, we have our moments, just like veterinarians, and anybody else that has a job that deals with the human element, right?
Hmm.
Everybody has their turn in the barrel, so to speak.
Right.
But I would argue that if you're a emergency room worker, you are in the barrel every day,
Right.
whether you can't park your car under a tree and not go to the call. They're
Hmm.
coming to you.
Right.
And so that would seem to me to be the most logical place to have something designated as part of your day,
Hmm.
is to get you to clean you,
Right.
to
Right.
clean your soul.
And teaching them I love to teach people how to do this for themselves
Right.
so that they're not like, yes, I love walking alongside people. I it's my joy to do body work sessions with people. However, I also give them tools to take with them to practice, like practice the grounding that we do together, send them a
Right.
recording, like the visualizations on my website. And then people who want to go further, talking about different lifestyle choices, different modalities that they can incorporate daily,
Right.
weekly, monthly,
I was going to say,
quarterly.
because there can be like a maintenance part of this, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Like if it works good for releasing trauma,
Mhm.
then how about it's like banking positive emotional energy.
Right. Yes. It's wonderful. It really is. Yeah, so you don't get depleted as
Yeah.
fast.
How
And
about that?
knowing and boundaries, just learning boundaries. I mean, I'm a recovering people pleaser, so boundaries are really a beautiful thing. And knowing, especially some of the cases that come my way, knowing my own limits, knowing, okay, this is how I can help, and here's what I can do for you. Here are, body work,
Right.
resources, etc., connecting them to different people, specialists who could do things that I cannot do. But knowing where you can help and where you need to pull back. That
It's
is
funny.
that
You said
is
all this, and
critical.
my wife just started reading a book, The Courage to Be Disliked.
Awesome. Yeah, not
And I was
everyone
just
has,
like, look at you, kid.
that's
I
awesome.
said, you're not on TikTok. Look at you. What do you got there? I said, I'm
Maybe
proud of you.
maybe you could do a book review with her. as a
I'm
podcast.
telling you, so she's like, I want to get into this. I go, good. I said, now make sure that dinner's on the table or I'll give you a fresh one.
Yeah.
Right. Cause
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
of
Yeah, right. But
course not. Um, that's awesome.
but
That's awesome.
it's true, like not everyone in this world is gonna like you, and
Mm,
that's actually a blessing.
mm,
That because what's not meant for you will go by the wayside, and
yeah.
what's meant for you will never ever pass you by.
Kind of filters out the nonsense on its own.
Right. Right. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
Most certainly.
Yeah, just like the
Um,
work I do is definitely not for everybody. It's for
right. But I
people
think it's just
who
like
are ready.
this is what I love about what you do. Um, because it's not what John Kelly would consider traditional. And see, this is the problem though. When you have traditional, you get the same thing you've always got.
Hmm.
And so, hey, dumbass, we keep doing, no, it's okay. My listeners they got broad shoulders. Um, if you keep doing the same things, right, and
Right.
expecting a different result, right, we know what that word is, right? That's insanity.
Insanity.
That's stupid. This is not the same. This is the thing I think, Rosie, that we're we're so convinced because it's not traditional,
Hmm.
it'll never work. That shit ain't gonna. I could see a bunch of knuckleheads. That shit ain't gonna work with. It's certainly not with that attitude.
Well,
And
and
so I think that there's so much. Oh, if we just acknowledged that there's so much out there we know nothing
yeah,
about.
and you are far more powerful than our society would like to lead you to believe.
Right.
Like, look at kids. They're so connected. They're so creative and imaginative and totally tap into their
Nobody
intuition.
told them they can't.
Right. And we can't override that. We can't squash that in people and just roll with it. Your intuition is one of your most valuable gifts. It's it can save your life.
Yeah, no doubt.
don't
No
don't
doubt.
over don't override it. So getting, back to getting people to remember who they are, and regarding, this type of work, that's why, like, I feel like it's a game of neurolinguistics, because someone is going to be critical or unhappy with anything you do.
Hmm,
So being true to who you are, and your intentions never lie. People
hmm.
can sense that automatically. And it is, I keep it about nervous system regulation. So that's pretty open. That's just a non-denominational approach.
Sure.
And we can, you know, people who are seeking it out, it's a great way to start. And then
Yeah.
we can go deeper into spirituality and their beliefs, um and all of that, all of it, which is beautiful and another topic that is near and dear. um However, keeping it about nervous system regulation is a wide creates then an open door and appeals to many, many people.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, right?
Yeah, and
Um,
especially people who have been cult survivors, people who have been really harmed by posers, if you will, in the church.
mm.
People set up, as their
Way to go.
pastor.
Way to go, Catholicism. Right?
I know it's really.
Oh
I mean, not to
God.
throw the. I grew up Catholic,
Yeah,
so
you and me both.
not
Listen,
to
they're
throw
they're
the.
selling they're selling church properties up in Mass to pay
Oh,
for all the lawsuits for diddling kids.
and
It's just terrible.
it's I,
Terrible. Yeah.
I can't believe you use that word,
I know. Well, that's what happened. That's what they did. They the
but
the
not to.
community got victimized twice. First by the priests and then by them selling their places of worship to pay the lawsuits. So, all right, so you got me jacked up again. I'm sorry.
Well, not to throw the baby out with the bathwater. They're beautiful, they're beautiful things about Catholicism,
No,
and
the religion is beautiful, but the minute man gets involved in it, it gets corrupted.
yeah, you're right. I feel ya. But um yeah, that's why
Nice save, Rosie. Thanks.
That's why I just love the non-denominational approach. Let's talk
Right.
about the nervous system. So we
Right.
don't,
And
you
that's an open door. Anybody
yeah,
can walk through that door.
right. It is. It definitely is. And I don't, your beliefs are your beliefs, and I
Yeah.
that for every person who walks through my door, and hold space for everybody, and just judgment is just not helpful.
No.
So just try to
It,
use less of that and infuse some more
you
compassion in
know
that.
what? If you're ever looking for a partner to take the opposite approach, you know, rough them up a little bit, maybe we can work on something, you know?
I think they need more body work after that.
Well, listen,
Oh, no.
listen, it's a win-win though, I get some frustration out and you get more clients, you get more
Mm,
sessions.
yeah.
Everything that you worked with me on, John just undid. I need I need to come back for
Let's go
another
back to the
session.
breath, John. Let's go back to the breath.
Oh my God.
We can end with a visualization if you want.
We could. You're too
Okay,
funny.
if you want, it's up to you. Otherwise, go to my website.
Yeah. So yeah, speak about your website. Let's do this, right? Holy smokes. Um consultrosie.com.
Yes.
Super easy. Consultrosie.com. And what can folks find there when they go to that site?
They can request complimentary, I call it a discovery call. So they can just chat about anything that they might be needing help
How
on.
how you might be able to help them
Yeah,
work
see if
through
we're a
some
good fit.
things.
Yeah, and I also consult with, a variety of people, including many different law enforcement professionals on prevention education for youth, which is a huge passion of mine as well. Um, so, but you can reach out and check out my services. I have a consultation page, I have a healing page, I have a lot of tremendous resources, including books and holistic healing, and wonderful colleagues of mine, sharing some of their work too.
Yeah, you've got quite a supportive network.
Yes, yeah. And breath, I've learned in the past handful of years, learned so much about breath works and see how that can be a powerful release for people, which is just wonderful. Sound healing as well is really beautiful. Very, very relaxing to the nervous system. So those are two modalities that are really awesome. And I just I'd encourage you all just to try something you haven't tried before, whether it's journaling, whether you're inside too much and you don't get your vitamin D,
Yeah.
you're not in
Why don't you
nature.
get out into
Yeah,
the wilderness a little bit? Maybe go for a
yeah,
walk.
yes. And if you
Go
love
water
pet,
skiing.
yes, I love water skiing. Actually, last week water skiing, I felt like a divine moment when I couldn't see, the sun was in my eyes, the water was like totally splashing in my face, and it just looked like this bright, huge bright spot that I couldn't see past. And so that brings me joy. Water
That's
skiing.
awesome. That's awesome. I will put all your information in the show notes so
Thank you.
nobody has to look for it. Um, a parting word before we wrap, hon? You've covered and said so many things that have really struck a chord with me and have really
Stay curious, and to remember you're never ever alone.
mm,
There are people in the non-physical form who are walking alongside you and supporting you, whether you can feel them, whether you can sense them, whether you're not there. But stay open, stay curious, and you're never alone.
that's going to make me cry. I'm going to end with that, Rosie Cataldo. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank
You're
you.
awesome. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. Thank you.
And that is that, kid. Awesome.
Thanks,
That
John.
was awesome. That was awesome.